The muffled screaming cut through the evening air like a knife through silence. Brianna Washington froze on the cracked sidewalk, her worn sneakers planted on the concrete as the sound reached her ears again. It was coming from the abandoned lot 3 blocks from her apartment, the place Mama always told her to avoid. The sun was setting fast, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, and she needed to get home before dark. But that sound. That desperate, terrified sound. She clutched her backpack straps tighter, her heart hammering against her ribs. At 10 years old, Brianna had learned to mind her own business in this neighborhood. She'd seen plenty of things she pretended not to see, heard plenty of things she tried to forget. But this was different. This wasn't a fight or an argument. This was someone in real trouble. The screaming came again, weaker this time, and Brianna felt her feet moving before her brain could stop them. She cut through the gap in the chain-link fence, her small frame easily slipping through the space that adults couldn't manage. The lot was full of abandoned cars, some stripped for parts, others just rusting away like forgotten memories. The screaming was louder now, more desperate, and it was coming from a black sedan near the back of the lot. Brianna approached slowly, her breath shallow and quick. The trunk of the car was shaking, rattling against its hinges. Someone was inside. Someone was trapped. Hello? Her voice came out smaller than she intended. The rattling stopped. Then a man's voice, hoarse and strained, called out. Please. Please help me. I can't breathe in here. Brianna's hands trembled as she looked at the trunk. There was no key, no obvious way to open it. But she'd watched her Uncle Jerome work on cars before he moved away. She knew trunks had an emergency release usually inside. I'm going to try to help you, she called out, her voice stronger now. But I need you to look for a handle inside. It might be glowing or it might be a cord. I can't see anything, the man gasped. It's too dark. Please, I've been in here for hours. My head is bleeding and I can barely move my hands. Brianna looked around frantically. She spotted a metal pipe lying near one of the stripped cars. It wasn't much, but it was something. She grabbed it, surprised by its weight, and carried it back to the sedan. I'm going to try to break the lock, she said. Cover your face if you can. She lifted the pipe and brought it down on the trunk latch with all her strength. The sound echoed through the empty lot. Once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th hit, something gave way. The trunk popped open with a groan of metal and Brianna stumbled backward. The man inside was curled up in an impossible position, his hands bound behind his back with zip ties, his expensive suit torn and dirty. Blood had dried on the side of his head, matting his graying brown hair. His blue eyes were wide with pain and relief as he looked up at her. Thank God, he whispered. Thank you. Thank you. Brianna dropped the pipe and reached for him. Can you move? I think so. He tried to sit up and groaned. My hands? Can you? She saw what he meant. The zip ties were cutting into his wrists, the skin raw and bleeding. Brianna looked around again and found a piece of broken glass. Carefully, she sawed at the plastic until it finally snapped. The man pulled his hands free and cried out in pain as blood rushed back into them. He was shaking, his whole body trembling as he tried to climb out of the trunk. Brianna helped him as much as she could, supporting his arm as he half fell, half climbed onto the ground. He lay there for a moment, just breathing, staring up at the darkening sky. Then he looked at her, really looked at her, taking in her worn clothes, her scuffed shoes, her careful expression. What's your name? He asked softly. Brianna. Brianna. He repeated it like a prayer. You saved my life. Do you understand that? You saved my life. She nodded slowly. Who put you in there? Men who wanted money. His voice was bitter. Men I thought I could trust. He tried to sit up and winced. I need to get to a hospital. Or the police. Do you have a phone? Brianna shook her head. Mama can't afford one for me yet. But our apartment isn't far. Mama might know what to do. The man looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. Can you help me walk? It took them nearly 20 minutes to cover the 3 blocks. The man, who said his name was Calvin, could barely put weight on his left leg. He leaned heavily on Brianna's small shoulders, and several times they had to stop so he could catch his breath. People on the street stared but didn't offer help. That was the way in this neighborhood. Mind your business, stay safe. By the time they reached the stairs to Brianna's 3rd-floor apartment, Calvin was ghost-white and sweating despite the cool evening air. Each step was agony, but Brianna stayed patient, helping him climb one step at a time. When she finally pushed open the apartment door, her mother was standing at the stove, still in her blue cleaning service uniform from her second job. Denise Washington turned around, her brown eyes going wide with shock. Brianna, what in the world? Mama, he was trapped in a car trunk, Brianna said quickly. He's hurt real bad. He needs help. For a moment, Denise just stood there, her mind clearly racing through all the reasons this could be dangerous, all the ways this could go wrong. Then her nursing instincts, the ones she'd never gotten to use professionally because she couldn't afford school, kicked in. Get him to the couch, she said, already moving toward them. Brianna, bring me the first aid kit from the bathroom. And get towels, clean ones. Together they got Calvin onto the worn brown couch. He collapsed against the cushions, his breathing shallow and rapid. Denise knelt beside him, her trained eye assessing his injuries. The head wound needs cleaning, she said, more to herself than anyone. And those wrists, what did they use on you? Zip ties, Calvin managed. They kidnapped me this morning. Threw me in that trunk and just left me there. Denise's jaw tightened, but her hands were gentle as she began cleaning the blood from his face. Brianna returned with the supplies, watching as her mother worked with the same careful attention she gave everything. We should call the police, Denise said. Not yet. Calvin's hand caught her wrist. Please. I need a moment. I need to think. Denise studied him, then nodded slowly. All right. But you need stitches for this cut and I can't do that here. You need a hospital. I know. Calvin closed his eyes. I will. I just need a few minutes to get my strength back. Brianna brought him water and he drank it like a man dying of thirst. Then she brought him the leftover chicken and rice from dinner, and despite everything he ate. Denise watched him carefully the whole time, checking his pupils, his pulse, making sure he wasn't going into shock. You live here alone? Calvin asked quietly, looking around the small apartment. It was clean but sparse, the furniture old but cared for. Just me and Brianna, Denise said. Her daddy left when she was 2. Been just us ever since. Calvin's eyes moved to Brianna, who was sitting cross-legged on the floor, watching him with those same careful eyes that had spotted him in that trunk. She's remarkable, he said. Most adults would have walked right past that lot. Would have convinced themselves they didn't hear anything. But she came looking. She didn't give up until she got me out. Denise's expression softened as she looked at her daughter. She's always been like that. Too brave for her own good sometimes. Not too brave, Calvin said. Exactly brave enough. If a child's courage could save a stranger's life, what would you do to protect that child's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us why kindness matters. Calvin stayed on the couch for nearly an hour, his strength slowly returning as Denise's careful attention worked its magic. She cleaned his wounds, bandaged his wrists, and made him drink 3 full glasses of water. Now she sat in the armchair across from him, her arms crossed, waiting. I should know who you are, she said finally. Before I let you stay any longer. Before I decide if I'm calling the police or not. Calvin nodded slowly. That's fair. He straightened up, wincing at the movement. My name is Calvin Hughes. I own Hughes Manufacturing Solutions. We make parts for medical equipment, hospital supplies, that sort of thing. Denise's eyebrows rose. You're that Calvin Hughes? The one whose picture is on the billboard on Riverside Drive. Guilty. A weak smile crossed his face. Though I hate that billboard. My marketing team insisted. So you're rich? It wasn't a question. Yes, I'm rich. Calvin looked down at his torn suit, his bloodied hands. For whatever that's worth right now. Brianna was sitting at the small dining table, pretending to do homework but clearly listening to every word. Denise glanced at her daughter, then back at Calvin. Who took you? Calvin's jaw tightened. My former business partner, Gordon Price. We had a falling out 6 months ago. He wanted to take the company in a direction I couldn't support. He wanted to cut corners on safety testing, to rush products to market before they were ready. I bought him out, paid him more than his share was worth, thought that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. No. Calvin's voice turned bitter. He came to my office this morning with 2 men I'd never seen before. Said he wanted to talk. When I let him in, they grabbed me. Put something over my face, some kind of cloth. Next thing I knew, I was in that trunk. Denise leaned forward. Did they say what they wanted? Money. Company shares. Gordon's been gambling apparently. Lost everything I paid him and then some. He thought he could force me to sign everything over to him. Calvin touched the wound on his head gently. When I refused, one of them hit me. Then they threw me in the trunk and left. Said they'd come back when I was ready to cooperate. The room fell silent. Brianna had stopped pretending to do homework and was staring at Calvin with wide eyes. But you got away, she said softly. Because of the trunk opening. Calvin looked at her and something in his expression cracked. No, sweetheart. I got away because of you. That trunk wasn't going to open on its own. Those men would have come back and I would have had to choose between dying in there or giving them everything. You saved my life, Brianna. You really truly saved my life. Tears welled up in Brianna's eyes and she quickly brushed them away. Denise stood and went to her daughter, pulling her close. You did good, baby, she whispered. You did real good. Calvin struggled to his feet, swaying slightly. I need to make some calls. I need to get to the police station and file a report. And I need to go to the hospital. He pulled out his wallet, which somehow had stayed in his pocket, and withdrew several $100 bills. Please, take this. For your help. For everything. Denise stared at the money and for a moment pride and necessity warred in her eyes. Calvin saw it and spoke quickly. It's not charity. You provided medical care. You gave me food and water. You kept me safe. That's worth something. Mama, take it, Brianna said quietly. We need it. The simple truth in her daughter's voice made Denise's decision for her. She took the money with trembling hands. Thank you. No. Calvin's voice was firm. Thank you. Both of you. He looked around. Do you have a phone I can use? Denise handed him the old landline and Calvin made 3 calls. The first was to his lawyer, his words sharp and urgent. The second was to the police, reporting the kidnapping and naming Gordon Price. The third was to a car service. They'll be here in 10 minutes, he said, hanging up. The police want me to come in tonight to give a statement. You should let them take you to the hospital first, Denise said. I will. Calvin looked at her, really looked at her, taking in the tired lines around her eyes, the worn uniform, the way she held herself with dignity despite everything. Can I ask you something? I suppose. What do you do? For work. Denise hesitated. I clean offices. Night shift mostly. And I work at a diner during the day. And I do laundry for some of the neighbors on weekends. 3 jobs. 3 jobs, she confirmed. It's what it takes. Calvin was quiet for a moment. I want to help. More than just this. He gestured to the money. I want to do something real. You don't owe us anything more than you've already given, Denise said firmly. Mama, Brianna spoke up. Maybe we should listen to what he wants to say. Denise looked at her daughter in surprise. Brianna had always been wise beyond her years, but this was different. This was her daughter seeing an opportunity and having the courage to reach for it. Calvin smiled at Brianna, then turned back to Denise. I own a company. A good company. We treat our people well, pay them fair wages, give them benefits. I'm always looking for good people, honest people. People who work hard and care about doing things right. He paused. People like you. I don't have a college degree, Denise said quietly. I don't care. I need someone in our administrative office. Someone to help coordinate schedules, manage supplies, work with our human resources team. It's steady work, daytime hours, and it pays well enough that you wouldn't need 3 jobs anymore. Denise's breath caught. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity. If you want it. And what about Brianna? Calvin looked at the little girl who had saved his life. What school do you go to, sweetheart? Lincoln Elementary, Brianna said. 3 blocks away. Do you like it? Brianna shrugged. It's okay. There's not many books though. And some of the teachers don't show up. Calvin's expression darkened. Would you like to go somewhere else? Somewhere with lots of books and teachers who show up every day. Brianna's eyes went wide. Really? Really? There's a good private school near my office. They have a scholarship program for families who need help with tuition. I sit on the board. I can make sure you get in. You do that. Denise's voice was barely a whisper. Why? Why would you do all this? Calvin met her eyes. Because your daughter saved my life. Because you opened your door to a stranger and helped him without asking for anything in return. Because I've spent 20 years building a company on the principle that good people deserve good things, and you two are the best people I've met in a very long time. He paused. And because I can. Because I have the means to help, and it would be wrong not to. A horn honked outside. Calvin's car had arrived. Think about it, he said, moving toward the door. I'll call you tomorrow. We'll talk more then. He stopped and turned back. But please, Denise, let me do this. Let me help. Denise looked at her daughter, saw the hope shining in Brianna's eyes, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. A chance. A real chance at something better. Okay, she said softly. Okay. We'll talk tomorrow. Calvin's smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds. He pulled out a business card and handed it to her. My personal cell number is on there. Call me anytime. Then he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Denise and Brianna stood in the middle of their small apartment, the money still in Denise's hands, their minds spinning with possibilities. Mama? Brianna's voice was small. Is this real? Denise pulled her daughter close, holding her tight. I think it might be, baby. I think it just might be. Calvin called the next morning at 8 o'clock sharp. Denise had barely slept, her mind racing through everything that had happened, alternating between hope and fear that it had all been some kind of fever dream. How are you feeling? She asked when she picked up the phone. Sore, Calvin admitted. Got 12 stitches in my head and my wrist looked like I got into a fight with a cheese grater. But I'm alive and that's what matters. He paused. The police arrested Gordon early this morning. Found him trying to board a flight to Mexico. They have him in custody now. Denise felt relief wash over her. That's good. That's really good. I meant what I said last night, Calvin continued. About the job. About helping Brianna. I want to do this, Denise. If you'll let me. Denise sat down at her kitchen table, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup. I've been thinking about it all night. And I keep asking myself why. Why would you do all this for strangers? You're not strangers anymore, Calvin said simply. You're the people who saved my life. And beyond that, I told you. I believe in helping good people when I can. That's not empty words. That's how I try to live. What would the job involve? Exactly? Calvin's voice became more businesslike. We need someone to help coordinate between our different departments. Schedule meetings, manage supply orders, work with our HR team on employee relations. It's administrative work, but it's important. Keeps everything running smoothly. He named a salary that made Denise's breath catch. That's more than I make at all 3 jobs combined. It's the fair rate for the position. You'd have health insurance, dental, vision. 2 weeks paid vacation to start, more after the first year. And there's room to grow if you want to take on more responsibility down the line. Denise felt tears prick at her eyes. When would you need me to start? Is Monday too soon? Monday. She laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. That's 3 days away. Is that a yes? Denise thought of the diner, of scrubbing toilets in office buildings at midnight, of doing laundry until her hands were raw. She thought of Brianna, of the tired look in her daughter's eyes when she came home from school, of the worn textbooks and crowded classrooms. Yes, she said firmly. Yes, it's a yes. Good. She could hear the smile in Calvin's voice. I'll have HR send over the paperwork today. And I'll call the school about Brianna. They start accepting applications for next semester this week. If we move fast, she could start in January. January. That was only a few weeks away. I know it's quick, but sometimes the best things happen quickly. Sometimes you just have to trust and take the leap. After they hung up, Denise sat at the table for a long time, just breathing. Brianna emerged from her bedroom, already dressed for school in her worn jeans and faded blue shirt. Was that Mr. Hughes? She asked. Yes, baby. It was. And? Denise opened her arms and Brianna ran into them. And everything is going to change. I'm taking the job. And you're going to a new school. Brianna pulled back, her eyes wide. Really? You mean it? I mean it. When? I start Monday. You'll start at the new school in January. Brianna threw her arms around her mother's neck and held on tight. For the first time in a long time, Denise let herself cry. Happy tears this time. Grateful tears. The next few days passed in a whirlwind. The paperwork arrived by courier that afternoon, and Denise spent hours filling it out, reading every word carefully. Calvin called again that evening to check on her, to answer questions, to make sure she had everything she needed. On Saturday, a package arrived. Inside were 2 new outfits for Denise to wear to work, both in her size. The clothes were professional but comfortable, better quality than anything she'd owned in years. There was also a new backpack for Brianna filled with school supplies and 3 new books. The note inside was simple: every new beginning deserves a fresh start. Denise called Calvin immediately. You didn't have to do this. I know. I wanted to. Calvin, this is too much. The job alone is already... It's not too much, he interrupted gently. It's just right. Trust me on this, Denise. Sometimes people need to learn how to accept help gracefully. I'm still learning that myself after what you and Brianna did for me. Monday morning came cold and bright. Denise dropped Brianna at school, holding her daughter's hands tight before letting go. You be good today, okay? I will, Mama. Brianna smiled. You be good too. I'll try. Denise laughed nervously. Hughes Manufacturing Solutions was located in a modern building on the east side of the city, far from the neighborhood where Denise had spent her whole life. She took 2 buses to get there, arriving 15 minutes early, her stomach churning with nerves. The receptionist greeted her warmly and directed her to the 3rd floor. Calvin was waiting by the elevator, dressed in a dark blue suit, a white bandage still visible on his temple. You came, he said, smiling. Did you think I wouldn't? I hoped you would. He gestured down the hallway. Come on. Let me show you around. The office was nothing like Denise had imagined. It was bright and clean with large windows letting in natural light. People smiled and said hello as they passed. Calvin introduced her to what felt like dozens of people, all of them friendly, all of them welcoming. Her desk was in a shared office space with 3 other administrative staff. They showed her the computer system, walked her through the filing procedures, explained the daily routine. It was overwhelming but not impossible. By lunchtime, Denise felt like she might actually be able to do this. Calvin took her to lunch in the building's cafeteria. How's it going so far? It's a lot, Denise admitted. But everyone's been so nice. So patient. That's how we do things here. Calvin picked at his salad. I learned a long time ago that if you treat people well, they'll do good work. Seems simple, but a lot of companies don't get it. How's your head? Better. Doctor says the stitches can come out next week. He touched the bandage lightly. I keep thinking about what would have happened if Brianna hadn't found me. If she'd walked past that lot like everyone else. But she didn't. No, she didn't. She's special, Denise. You've raised an extraordinary kid. Denise felt pride swell in her chest. I've tried. It hasn't always been easy. The best things never are. Calvin met her eyes. I talked to the school this morning. They're fast-tracking Brianna's application. You'll need to bring her in for a visit this week, let her see the campus, meet some teachers. But they're excited to have her. Thank you. The words felt inadequate. For everything. Stop thanking me, Calvin said gently. This is what neighbors do for each other. What friends do. We help each other. That's all this is. But it wasn't just that, and they both knew it. This was something more. Something better. Denise's first week flew by in a blur of learning and adjusting. The work was challenging but satisfying. For the first time in years, she wasn't exhausted by the end of the day. She was tired, yes, but it was a good tired. The kind that came from using your mind, from learning new things, from being valued. On Friday afternoon, Calvin stopped by her desk. How are you settling in? Good. Really good. I'm glad. He hesitated. I was wondering if you and Brianna would like to come to dinner tomorrow night. Nothing fancy. Just to thank you for everything. Denise felt her heart skip. You really don't need to thank us anymore. You've done more than enough. Maybe I just want the company, Calvin said softly. Maybe I'd like to get to know you both better. As friends. Denise looked at him, really looked at him. Saw the sincerity in his eyes, the gentle hope in his expression. Okay. Yes. We'd like that. Good. Calvin smiled. I'll text you the address. 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock. That night, Denise told Brianna about the dinner invitation. Her daughter's face lit up with excitement. We're going to Mr. Hughes' house? We are. Do you think it's fancy? Probably. Denise laughed. But he said not to worry about that. Just to come as we are. Brianna was quiet for a moment, then said, I like him, Mama. He's nice. Yeah, baby. He is. Do you like him? Denise felt heat rise in her cheeks. I do. He's a good man. Good. Brianna smiled. We could use a good man around. Calvin's house wasn't what Denise expected. She'd imagined something huge and intimidating, all marble and cold perfection. Instead, the house was warm and welcoming, a 2-story craftsman-style home with a wide front porch and flower boxes in the windows. The lights glowed softly as they walked up the path. Calvin answered the door in jeans and a green sweater, looking more relaxed than Denise had ever seen him. Come in, come in. You found it okay? Your directions were perfect, Denise said, stepping inside with Brianna close behind her. The interior was just as warm as the exterior. Comfortable furniture, family photos on the walls, books everywhere. A fireplace crackled in the living room, and something delicious was cooking in the kitchen. I hope you like lasagna, Calvin said. It's one of the few things I can actually cook without setting off the smoke alarm. Brianna giggled. Mama burns toast sometimes. Hey now, Denise protested, but she was smiling. That was once. Maybe twice. Calvin showed them around while the lasagna finished baking. The house had clearly been decorated with care, each room telling a story. In the study, Brianna's eyes went wide at the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. "You can borrow any of them you want," Calvin said. "I mean that. Anytime." "Really?" Brianna looked at her mother for permission. "If Mr. Hughes says it's okay, then yes. Please call me Calvin. Both of you. We're past formalities now." Dinner was comfortable and easy. Calvin was a natural storyteller, sharing funny anecdotes about his early days starting the company, about the mistakes he'd made and the lessons he'd learned. Brianna hung on every word, asking questions that showed how carefully she was listening. "What made you want to start a business?" she asked between bites of lasagna. Calvin considered the question seriously. "My mother was a nurse. She worked in a hospital for 30 years, and she used to come home and tell me about problems they had with equipment. Things that broke down or didn't work right. I thought maybe I could help fix that." He smiled. "Turns out I was pretty good at it." "Did your mom get to see you succeed?" Denise asked softly. Calvin's expression grew sad. "She did. She passed away 5 years ago, but she got to see the company grow. Got to see that her stories inspired something good." "I'm sorry," Denise said. "Thank you. She was a remarkable woman. Would have loved meeting you too." After dinner, Calvin brought out a board game and the three of them played until Brianna started yawning. As Denise gathered their things to leave, Calvin walked them to the door. "This was nice," he said. "Really nice. I haven't had company like this in a long time." "We should do it again," Brianna said boldly. "Maybe at our place next time." "I'd like that," Calvin said, looking at Denise for confirmation. "Next Saturday?" Denise offered. "Nothing fancy, but I can promise it won't be burnt toast." Calvin laughed. "It's a date." The words hung in the air for a moment, neither of them quite sure what they meant. Then Denise smiled and took Brianna's hand. "Good night, Calvin." "Good night, Denise." "Good night, Brianna." The next week at work, Denise found her rhythm. She learned the computer systems, memorized the filing procedures, got to know her coworkers. She discovered she had a knack for organization, for seeing patterns and solving problems. Her supervisor praised her work, and by Friday, Denise felt like she'd been there for months instead of weeks. Calvin stopped by her desk regularly, always with a valid work reason but also clearly just to check on her. They'd talk for a few minutes, nothing deep, but Denise found herself looking forward to those moments. Found herself noticing things about him. The way he smiled when he was pleased. The patience he showed with employees who made mistakes. The genuine interest he took in everyone's lives. On Wednesday, Brianna had her visit to the new school. Denise took a half day to accompany her, and Calvin insisted on coming along. The school was beautiful. Modern buildings surrounded by green spaces, art displayed in the hallways, a library that made Brianna gasp with delight. The teachers were engaged and enthusiastic. The students they passed seemed happy and focused. Brianna's interview with the admissions director went perfectly. She answered questions thoughtfully, asked smart questions of her own, and by the end the director was smiling broadly. "We'd be thrilled to have Brianna join us in January," she said. "She's exactly the kind of student we love to work with." On the drive back, Brianna chattered nonstop about the school. The art room with its pottery wheels. The science lab with real microscopes. The music room with instruments students could learn to play. "Can I really go there, Mama?" "Really? Really, baby?" Brianna turned in her seat to look at Calvin. "Thank you. Thank you so much." "You're welcome, sweetheart. Just promise me you'll work hard and make the most of it." "I promise." That evening, after Brianna was in bed, Denise sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea, thinking about how much had changed in just 2 weeks. Her entire life had transformed because her daughter had the courage to help a stranger. It felt like something from a story too perfect to be real. Her phone rang. Calvin's name appeared on the screen. "Hey," she said. "Everything okay?" "Everything's fine. I just wanted to check on you. See how you're feeling about everything." "Honestly, I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. For someone to tell me this was all a mistake." "It's not a mistake," Calvin said firmly. "You're doing great work, Denise. Everyone in the office has said so. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. It's just hard to believe sometimes." "I know." Calvin was quiet for a moment. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. I was married once. Long time ago. We were young and wanted different things. She wanted the society life, the country club, all of that. I wanted to build something meaningful. We split up after 3 years, no kids, stayed friendly but moved on. I've dated since then but nothing ever felt right. He paused. I think I'd given up on finding real connection. Then your daughter saved my life and you opened your door to me, and suddenly I'm remembering what it feels like to connect with people who are genuine, who are real. Denise's heart was beating fast. Calvin. I'm not saying this to pressure you, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know. You and Brianna, you've reminded me of what matters. And I'm grateful for that. We're grateful to you too, Denise said softly. For all of this. For giving us a chance. How about I give you another chance? Calvin asked. I've been thinking. Your apartment, it's in a rough neighborhood. I own a building on the north side, nice area, good schools even before Brianna starts at the private school. I have a 2-bedroom unit coming vacant next month. I'd like to offer it to you. Fair rent, nothing crazy. Just a better place for you and Brianna. Denise's first instinct was to refuse. It was too much, too fast. But then she thought about the gunshots they sometimes heard at night. The broken elevator. The drug dealers on the corner. And she thought about Brianna, about giving her daughter a safe place to grow up. What's fair rent? She asked. Calvin named a figure that was barely more than what she was paying now. I'm serious about this, Denise. I want you and Brianna to be safe. To have a good home. Will you at least look at it? Yes, Denise said. Yes, we'll look at it. Good. How about this weekend? Saturday after dinner at your place? Denise laughed. You're not going to let me say no, are you? Not when it comes to your safety and happiness. No, I'm not. Saturday came bright and clear. Denise spent the morning cleaning the apartment until it shone, then prepared dinner. Nothing fancy, just fried chicken, green beans, and mac and cheese. Comfort food. Home food. Calvin arrived at 6 with a bouquet of flowers for Denise and a new book for Brianna. He fit into their small space like he'd always been there, helping set the table, complimenting everything, making Brianna laugh with silly jokes. After dinner, they drove to the north side to see the apartment. The building was newer, well-maintained, with a working elevator and a security door. The apartment itself was twice the size of their current place, with big windows that let in lots of light. The kitchen had modern appliances. The bathroom had a tub and shower. Brianna's bedroom would be big enough for a desk and bookshelves. What do you think? Calvin asked. Denise stood in the middle of the empty living room, turning slowly, taking it all in. It's perfect. Can we take it, Mama? Brianna's voice was full of hope. Please? Denise looked at Calvin. You're sure about the rent? I'm sure about everything. She took a deep breath and nodded. Okay. Yes. We'll take it. Calvin's smile lit up the room. Good. It's yours. You can move in any time next month. As they locked up and headed back to the car, Brianna skipped ahead, practically dancing with excitement. Calvin walked beside Denise and their hands brushed accidentally. He caught her fingers gently and she didn't pull away. Thank you, she said quietly. For all of this. Thank you, he replied. For letting me help. For letting me be part of your lives. Moving day arrived on a Saturday in mid-December. Calvin showed up at 7 in the morning with a moving truck and 3 employees from his company who'd volunteered to help. Denise had protested when he told her the plan, but Calvin had been insistent. You helped me when I had nothing, he'd said. Let me help you now. The apartment didn't have much to move. Most of their furniture was too worn to keep, so Calvin had arranged for new pieces to be delivered to the new place. Simple but sturdy things. A real couch instead of the sagging hand-me-down. A proper bed frame for Denise. A desk and bookshelf for Brianna's room. By noon they were done. The old apartment was empty, looking smaller and sadder than ever. Denise stood in the doorway taking one last look. You okay? Calvin asked, coming to stand beside her. Yeah. Just saying goodbye. She touched the doorframe. We had some good times here. Some hard times too. But it was home. And now you have a better one. She smiled at him. Yeah. We do. The new apartment transformed over the next few days. Denise hung curtains and arranged furniture. Brianna decorated her room with posters and set up her growing book collection on the new shelves. They christened the kitchen by baking cookies, which actually turned out perfectly for once. Calvin came by often, always with a reason. Helping hang pictures. Bringing dinner. Showing Brianna how to use the fancy new coffee maker he'd bought for Denise. His presence became comfortable, expected, wanted. One evening, about a week after the move, Calvin stayed for dinner again. Afterward, while Brianna did homework in her room, he and Denise sat on the couch, drinking tea and talking. I've been thinking, Calvin said. About Christmas. What do you usually do? Not much, Denise admitted. We do presents, just small things. Watch Christmas movies. Cook a nice dinner. Would you consider doing something with me? There's a Christmas festival downtown. Lights, music, food vendors. I thought maybe we could all go together. Denise looked at him, at the hopeful expression on his face. Over the past month, something had been growing between them. Something warm and gentle that neither of them had quite named yet. We'd love to, she said. The festival was magical. The whole downtown area was strung with lights, transforming the city into a winter wonderland. Brianna ran from booth to booth, marveling at everything. They ate roasted chestnuts and drank hot chocolate. Calvin won Brianna a stuffed penguin at a game booth, and her delighted laughter made them both smile. As the evening grew late and they walked back to the car, Brianna between them, she reached up and took both their hands. This is the best Christmas ever, she said. And it's not even Christmas yet. Calvin met Denise's eyes over Brianna's head, and something passed between them. An understanding. A possibility. Christmas morning dawned cold and bright. Denise woke early to start preparing dinner, humming to herself as she worked. Brianna appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in her pajamas. Can we open presents now? After breakfast, baby? You know the rules. They were halfway through pancakes when the doorbell rang. Denise answered it to find Calvin standing there with a red scarf wrapped around his neck and his arms full of packages. Merry Christmas, he said. I hope I'm not intruding. Not at all. Denise stepped back to let him in. We're just having breakfast. Have you eaten? Not yet. Then join us. They opened presents after breakfast. Denise had gotten Calvin a nice watch, something professional but not too expensive. He seemed genuinely touched by it. Calvin's gifts were more elaborate. A winter coat for Denise, soft and warm. A complete art set for Brianna with paints and brushes and canvas boards. Books for both of them. This is too much, Denise started to say, but Calvin stopped her. It's exactly right. Trust me. They spent the day together. Calvin helped Denise in the kitchen, chopping vegetables and stirring pots. They played board games with Brianna. They watched a Christmas movie curled up on the couch. It felt natural. It felt right. It felt like family. After dinner, while Brianna was occupied with her new art supplies, Calvin and Denise stepped onto the small balcony. The air was crisp and cold, the city lights twinkling below them. Thank you for letting me spend today with you, Calvin said. I haven't had a Christmas this nice in years. Thank you for wanting to be here. Denise pulled her new coat tighter around herself. Calvin, I need to ask you something. Anything. What is this? Between us? What are we doing here? Calvin was quiet for a moment, looking out at the city. Then he turned to face her, his expression serious but warm. I care about you, Denise. A lot. And I care about Brianna. These past few weeks, spending time with you both, it's been the happiest I've been in a long time. He paused. I'm not trying to rush anything. I know this all started in an unusual way. But I'd like to see where this goes. If you're willing. Denise's heart was racing. I care about you too. But I have to think about Brianna. I have to make sure that I'm not going anywhere, Calvin finished. I understand. And I can promise you this. I'm here for the long haul. Whatever happens between us, I'm committed to being in your lives. Both of your lives. That's a big promise. I'm a man who keeps his promises. Denise looked at him, really looked at him. Saw the sincerity in his eyes, the genuine care in his expression. She thought about all he'd done for them. The job. The school. The apartment. But more than that, the time he'd spent with them. The attention he paid to Brianna's interests. The respect he showed to Denise's opinions. This wasn't just gratitude or obligation. This was real. Okay, she said softly. Let's see where this goes. Calvin's smile was like sunrise. He reached out and took her hand, and this time there was no mistaking what it meant. They stood there on the balcony, hands linked, watching the city lights, both of them feeling like maybe, just maybe, they'd found something worth holding on to. Inside, Brianna looked up from her painting, saw them through the glass door and smiled to herself. She'd hoped this would happen. She'd wished for it. And now it was coming true. The next few weeks fell into a comfortable pattern. Calvin came for dinner at least twice a week. They went on outings together, the three of them exploring the city, trying new restaurants, visiting museums. Calvin and Denise started having coffee dates in the mornings before work, just the two of them talking about everything and nothing. Brianna started at her new school in January. She loved it from day one. The teachers were engaged and caring. The students were friendly. She came home every day with stories about what she'd learned, projects she was excited about, friends she was making. You're thriving, Denise told her one night as she tucked her into bed. I really am, Mama. Thank you. For saying yes to all of this. For being brave. Denise kissed her forehead. You were the brave one, remember? You saved Calvin. Everything else came from that. Maybe we saved each other, Brianna said wisely. Calvin needed help and we needed help and we all helped each other. When did you get so smart? Brianna grinned. I was always this smart. You just notice it more now. We're halfway through this journey of hope and second chances. What do you think will happen next? Will Calvin and Denise's budding relationship survive what's coming? Drop your predictions in the comments and subscribe to see how this story unfolds. February brought cold winds and scattered snow, but inside the warm bubble of their new life, Denise, Brianna, and Calvin barely noticed. They'd settled into something that felt remarkably like a family, though no one had quite said those words out loud yet. Brianna noticed everything, though. She saw the way her mother smiled when Calvin called. She saw how Calvin always made sure to ask about her day, really listening to her answers. She saw the gentle touches, the shared glances, the way they moved around each other with increasing comfort and ease. On Valentine's Day, Calvin took Denise out to dinner. Just the two of them. Brianna stayed with their neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, a kind older woman who lived 2 doors down. Your mom and Calvin make a nice couple, Mrs. Patterson said as they played cards. You must be happy about it. I am, Brianna said. Calvin's good to us. He makes Mama laugh. That's important. Your mama deserves to laugh. When Denise came home that night, her cheeks were flushed and her eyes were bright. Brianna pretended to be asleep, but she peeked through her barely open door and saw Calvin kiss her mother goodnight. A real kiss, soft and sweet at the door. Her mother's smile afterward could have lit up the whole building. The next morning at breakfast, Brianna decided to be direct. It was one of her best qualities and occasionally one of her worst. So you and Calvin are officially dating now? Denise nearly choked on her coffee. What makes you say that? I saw him kiss you last night. And you've been smiling at your phone all morning. Denise set down her cup and looked at her daughter seriously. How do you feel about that? About me and Calvin? Brianna didn't hesitate. I think it's great. I think Calvin's great. I think he should be around all the time. All the time? Yeah. Like living here. Like a family. Brianna, sweetie, that's a really big step. Calvin and I are still figuring things out. But you love him, right? Denise's breath caught. Oh, we haven't talked about that yet. But you do. I can tell. And he loves you too. Anyone can see it. It's more complicated than that when you're an adult. Why? Brianna asked. If 2 people love each other and treat each other good and make each other happy, why is that complicated? Denise laughed, pulling her daughter into a hug. When did you become the wise one? I've always been the wise one. You're just catching up. At work that Monday, Calvin stopped by Denise's desk with his usual coffee and a request. Can you stay a few minutes after work today? I have something I want to show you. Sure. Everything okay? Everything's great. Just trust me. After 5 o'clock, when most of the office had cleared out, Calvin led Denise to the executive floor. She'd never been up here before. The offices were nicer, the carpets thicker, the view from the windows spectacular. Where are we going? She asked. Right here. Calvin opened a door to a spacious office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A large desk sat in the center and bookshelves lined one wall. This is beautiful, Denise said. Whose office is it? It's going to be the new director of operations office. Calvin turned to face her. I want it to be yours. Denise stared at him. What? You've been here 2 months and in that time, you've reorganized 3 departments, streamlined our supply chain process, and solved problems we didn't even know we had. My COO is retiring at the end of the year, and I need someone to fill his role. Someone smart, capable, and trustworthy. He paused. Someone exactly like you. Calvin, I don't have any experience in that kind of role. I don't have the credentials. You have something better. You have practical intelligence and good judgment. The rest we can teach you. We'll send you to some management courses, pair you with our retiring COO for the rest of the year to learn from him. By January, you'll be ready. Denise walked to the window looking out at the city. A director position. The kind of job she'd never even dreamed of. The kind of opportunity that could change everything. Why me? She asked quietly. Calvin came to stand beside her. Because you're the best person for the job. Because I trust you completely. And because I believe in you. He hesitated. And because I'm falling in love with you and I want to build a future together. A real future. Denise turned to look at him, her eyes wide. You're falling in love with me? I'm already there actually. Have been for a while now. He took her hands. I know this might seem fast. I know we've only known each other a few months. But Denise, when you know, you know. And I know. Tears filled Denise's eyes. I'm falling in love with you too. Have been. I was just scared to say it. Don't be scared. Not with me. He pulled her close and kissed her, and this time it wasn't gentle or tentative. This was a kiss that meant something. A kiss that promised something. When they finally pulled apart, Denise was crying and laughing at the same time. This is really happening? It's really happening. If you want it to be. I want it. The job, us, all of it. I want it so much. They stayed in that office until the cleaning crew came through, talking about the future, making plans, dreaming dreams. When Denise finally got home, it was past 9. Brianna was still awake, reading in her room. Mama? Why are you home so late? Denise sat on the edge of Brianna's bed. I was with Calvin. He offered me a promotion. A big one. That's amazing. Brianna sat up. What else? What do you mean? You're glowing, Mama. Something else happened. Denise laughed. He told me he loves me. Brianna squealed and threw her arms around her mother's neck. I knew it. I knew it. What did you say? I said I love him too. So what happens now? Now we keep doing what we're doing. Spending time together. Getting to know each other better. Building something real. Will he move in with us? Maybe someday. But not yet. We're taking it slow. Brianna pulled back and looked at her mother seriously. Mama, I need to tell you something. What is it, baby? I want Calvin to be my dad. Like for real. I know he's not my biological dad, but I want him to be my dad anyway. Is that okay? Denise's heart squeezed. Oh, sweetheart. That's something we'd all have to talk about together. That's a big thing. But would you be okay with it? If he wanted to. If he wanted to and you wanted to, then yes. I'd be more than okay with it. Brianna smiled and snuggled back into her pillows. Good. Because I'm going to make it happen. How are you going to do that? I have my ways. Denise laughed and kissed her daughter's forehead. I'm sure you do. Over the next few weeks, Brianna made her campaign clear. She started calling Calvin almost dad in casual conversation. She drew pictures of the three of them as a family and hung them on the refrigerator. She asked Calvin pointed questions about whether he wanted kids of his own someday, and whether he liked being around kids in general. Calvin caught on quickly. One Saturday afternoon, while Denise was at the grocery store, he and Brianna were playing a card game at the kitchen table. So, Calvin said casually, you've been doing a lot of hinting lately. Brianna looked up innocently. About what? About me becoming part of your family. Officially. Is it working? Calvin laughed. Brianna, you don't have to campaign for this. I already want to be part of your family. I want to be your dad if that's what you want. And if your mom is ready for that step. Brianna's eyes filled with tears. Really? You mean it? I mean it with everything I have. Calvin reached across the table and took her hand. You saved my life, kiddo. And then you let me into yours. Being your dad would be the greatest honor I could imagine. When are you going to ask Mama to marry you? Is that what you want? Yes. And she wants it too. I can tell. Calvin smiled. Then I guess I'd better start planning something special. Not too fancy though. Mama doesn't like fancy. She likes real. Real. Got it? Calvin squeezed her hand. Thank you, Brianna. For accepting me. For wanting me around. Thank you for loving us. For staying. When Denise came home with groceries, she found them still at the table, talking and laughing like they'd been family for years. And in all the ways that mattered, they had been. March came in with rain and an unexpected visitor. Denise was at work, reviewing supply chain reports, when Calvin appeared in her doorway looking pale and shaken. My office. No. Please. She followed him quickly, worry knotting in her stomach. Calvin closed the door behind them and went to stand by the window, his back to her. Gordon made bail, he said quietly. Denise felt ice slide down her spine. What? Oh. I thought the charges were serious. They are. Kidnapping, attempted extortion. But his lawyer found some technicality, and a judge granted bail pending trial. Gordon posted it this morning. He's out. What does that mean for us? For the case. Calvin turned to face her, his expression hard. It means he's desperate. It means he's unpredictable. The trial is set for May, and my lawyer says the prosecution has a strong case. But until then, Gordon's free to do whatever he wants as long as he doesn't leave the state or contact me directly. Have you heard from him? Not directly. But I got a call from my lawyer an hour ago. Gordon's been making threats, saying he's going to destroy me, ruin my reputation, take everything I've built. Denise went to him, taking his hands. He can't do that. You have too many people who know the truth, who know what kind of man you are. Truth doesn't always matter when someone's determined to lie loudly enough. Calvin's jaw was tight. I've worked 20 years to build this company, to build a reputation for integrity. Gordon knows exactly where to strike to hurt me most. What do? We stay vigilant. We document everything. And we trust the legal system to do its job. He pulled her close. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Be careful. Watch Brianna. I don't think Gordon would actually hurt anyone, but I didn't think he'd kidnap me either. I was wrong about him once. I don't want to be wrong again and have you or Brianna pay the price. Fear clutched at Denise's heart. You're scaring me. I'm sorry. I just need you to be aware. To be smart. If you see anything suspicious, anyone following you, call the police immediately. Don't hesitate. Okay. I will. They held each other for a long moment, drawing strength from their connection. Then Calvin's phone rang. His lawyer again. Denise left him to take the call and went back to her desk, but she couldn't focus on work. Her mind kept spinning with worry. That evening she told Brianna what was happening. Her daughter listened seriously, then asked, "Is Calvin going to be okay?" "He will be. The police and lawyers are handling it. But we need to be careful. Stay alert." "I will, Mama." The next few days were tense. Calvin hired extra security for the office building and arranged for a security company to do regular patrols of Denise's apartment complex. He walked Brianna to and from school himself whenever possible. They all tried to maintain normal routines, but worry hung over them like a cloud. On Thursday evening, Denise was walking from the bus stop to her apartment when a car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down and Gordon Price leaned out. "You must be Denise," he said with a cold smile. "Calvin's new girlfriend." Denise kept walking, her heart hammering. "Leave me alone. I just want to talk." Gordon drove slowly beside her. "You seem like a nice woman. Smart. I'm wondering what Calvin told you about me. I know what you did to him. I know you're facing serious charges. His version of the story, I'm sure. Did he tell you how he stole my company? How he pushed me out of the business we built together?" "That's not what happened." "Are you sure? Have you checked? Or are you just taking his word for everything because he gave you a job and played hero to your kid?" Denise stopped walking and turned to face him. "What do you want?" "I want you to know the truth. Calvin Hughes isn't the saint he pretends to be. He's ruthless. He'll use you until you're not useful anymore, then discard you like he did me. You kidnapped him and left him to die in a trunk." Gordon's expression hardened. "I gave him a chance to make things right. He refused. Everything that happened after is on him." "You're delusional." Denise pulled out her phone. "And if you don't leave me alone right now, I'm calling the police. I'm pretty sure you're violating your bail conditions by being here." Gordon stared at her for a long moment, then smiled again. That same cold smile. "Tell Calvin I said hello. Tell him this isn't over." He drove away and Denise immediately dialed Calvin. He answered on the first ring. "Gordon just approached me outside my apartment. He tried to turn me against you." "Did he threaten you?" "Not exactly. But he was intimidating. Creepy. I'm calling my lawyer and the police right now. Stay inside. Lock your doors. I'm coming over." Calvin arrived within 20 minutes, having broken several speed limits. He held Denise tight while they waited for the police to show up. 2 officers took her statement, promised to add this to the file against Gordon, and said they'd be increasing patrols in the area. After they left, Calvin and Denise sat on the couch with Brianna between them. The little girl had been frightened by all the commotion, and Calvin held her hand gently. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I never wanted you two to be dragged into this." "It's not your fault," Denise said firmly. "Gordon's the one who made these choices. All you did was refuse to be his victim. But you and Brianna are paying the price for that." "We're fine," Brianna said. "And we're not going anywhere. Right, Mama?" "Right. We're staying together. All of us." Over the next 2 weeks, Gordon escalated his campaign. He started rumors about Calvin's business practices, contacted reporters with false stories, sent threatening letters to Calvin's office. The legal team documented everything, building an even stronger case, but it took its toll. Calvin was exhausted, stressed, barely sleeping. Denise saw the weight he was carrying and wished she could lift some of it. She and Brianna did what they could, providing comfort and normalcy, reminding him why he was fighting. One evening, Calvin came to dinner looking particularly worn down. Brianna noticed immediately. "You look tired," she said bluntly. "I am, sweetheart. Gordon's really trying to hurt you, isn't he?" "He is. But he won't succeed. The truth is on our side." "Good. Because we need you. And you're going to beat him." Calvin smiled, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "You think so?" "I know so. Bad guys always lose in the end. That's how it works." "I hope you're right, kiddo. I really do." April brought warmer weather and continued harassment from Gordon. The threats became more sophisticated. He hired a publicist to spread negative stories about Calvin's company. He contacted Calvin's biggest clients with false accusations. He even went to the media with claims that Calvin had stolen his business ideas. Calvin's legal team fought back hard, sending cease and desist letters, threatening defamation suits, providing evidence of Gordon's lies. But fighting back took time and energy that Calvin didn't have to spare. Denise watched him struggle and made a decision. On a Monday morning, she called a meeting with the administrative staff and several department heads. Calvin was off-site with his lawyer, dealing with another of Gordon's schemes. "Most of you know what's been going on," Denise said to the assembled group. "Mr. Hughes is facing false accusations from someone who wants to destroy what he's built. And while he and his lawyers are handling the legal side, I think we can help with the rest." "How?" asked Maria, one of the HR managers. "By being loud about the truth. Mr. Hughes is too classy to defend himself publicly, but we're not bound by that same restraint. We know what kind of man he is. We know how he treats his employees, how he runs his business. So let's tell people." Over the next few days, employees began sharing their experiences working at Hughes Manufacturing Solutions. They talked about fair wages, good benefits, the respect they received. They shared stories about Calvin's integrity, his kindness, the way he remembered everyone's names and asked about their families. Current and former clients reached out with testimonials. Suppliers wrote letters of support. The local business community, which had worked with Calvin for years, rallied around him. Gordon's smear campaign began to lose traction. Every lie he told was countered by a dozen truths. Every accusation was met with evidence of the opposite. Calvin came home one evening to find Denise and Brianna waiting with a folder full of printouts. Testimonials, news articles, social media posts, all in his defense. "What is this?" he asked, flipping through the pages. "That's what happens when you spend 20 years being a good person," Denise said. "People remember. And they speak up." Calvin's eyes filled with tears as he read through the testimonials. Employees saying he'd helped them through hard times. Clients praising his honesty. Competitors acknowledging his integrity even when it cost him business opportunities. "I don't know what to say," he managed finally. "You don't have to say anything," Denise told him. "Just know that you're not alone in this fight. You never were." Calvin pulled her into his arms and held on tight. Brianna joined the hug, wrapping her arms around both of them. "We're a team," Brianna said firmly. "And teams stick together." "Yeah," Calvin said, his voice rough with emotion. "We are." The trial date was approaching. Calvin's lawyer was confident but cautious. The evidence against Gordon was strong, but trials were unpredictable. All they could do was prepare and hope. In late April, Gordon tried a different tack. He called Calvin directly, violating his bail conditions but doing it from a burner phone that couldn't be easily traced. "You've cost me everything," Gordon hissed when Calvin answered. "My money, my reputation, my future. All because you couldn't share what we built together." "We didn't build anything together," Calvin said coldly. "I built a company based on integrity and you tried to corrupt it. The only person who's cost you everything is yourself. I gave you one last chance. I'm offering you a deal. Drop the charges, give me a settlement, and I'll disappear. You'll never hear from me again. No. Think about your girlfriend. Your little family. Think about what might happen if you push this." Calvin's hand tightened on the phone. "Are you threatening them?" "I'm just pointing out consequences. You never know what might happen to people who get in my way." "You just made a mistake," Calvin said quietly. "A big one." He hung up and immediately called his lawyer, who called the police. The phone company was able to trace the burner phone location. Gordon was arrested that evening for violating bail conditions and making terrorist threats. This time there would be no bail. Gordon would stay in custody until the trial. Calvin called Denise immediately with the news. She could hear the relief in his voice. "It's over?" she asked. "Not completely. We still have the trial. But he can't hurt us anymore. He can't come after you or Brianna. He's locked up and he'll stay that way." Thank God. That night, Denise made a special dinner to celebrate. Nothing fancy, just Calvin's favorite chicken and vegetable dish with chocolate cake for dessert. They ate together at the small dining table, and for the first time in weeks, everyone relaxed. So what happens now? Brianna asked. With Gordon? He'll go to trial in May, Calvin explained. The prosecutor will present evidence of the kidnapping, the extortion attempts, the harassment, everything. If he's convicted, which my lawyer thinks is very likely, he'll go to prison for a long time. Good, Brianna said firmly. He deserves it. Yes, he does. After dinner, while Brianna was brushing her teeth, Calvin pulled Denise aside. I've been thinking, he said. About us. About the future. What about it? These past few months, going through all of this, it's made me realize something. He took her hands. Life is short. Life is unpredictable. And when you find something real, something worth holding on to, you shouldn't wait. Denise's heart began to race. Calvin. I'm not proposing right now. I want to do that properly when all this legal stuff is behind us and we can really celebrate. But I wanted you to know. I want to marry you, Denise. I want to be Brianna's dad officially. I want us to be a real family. Tears filled Denise's eyes. I want that too. So much. Then that's what we'll do. As soon as this trial is over and Gordon is in prison where he belongs, we'll start our real life together. No more looking over our shoulders. No more fear. Just us building something beautiful. They kissed and it felt like a promise. Like a beginning. When Brianna came back from brushing her teeth, she found them still holding each other, still smiling. Did something good happen? She asked. Something very good, Denise said. But it's a secret for now. Brianna grinned. Is it the kind of secret that ends with me being a bridesmaid? Calvin laughed. How did you know? I know everything. Remember? Right. We should probably stop trying to surprise you. Probably. Brianna hugged both of them. But I'll pretend to be surprised anyway. Because that's what good daughters do. May arrived with clear skies and the promise of justice. The trial began on a Monday morning. Calvin, Denise, and Calvin's lawyer arrived at the courthouse early. Denise had taken the day off work, and Brianna was with Mrs. Patterson. The courthouse was old and imposing, with high ceilings and dark wood paneling. Gordon was already there, sitting with his defense attorney, looking smaller than Denise remembered. Prison had worn him down. He looked tired and bitter. The trial lasted 3 days. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence. Photos of Calvin's injuries from the kidnapping. Medical records documenting the head wound and wrist damage. Security footage showing Gordon and 2 other men entering Calvin's office building the morning of the kidnapping. Phone records proving Gordon had been making threatening calls. They brought in the 2 men who'd helped Gordon, both of whom had taken plea deals and agreed to testify against him. They described in detail how Gordon had planned the kidnapping, how they'd grabbed Calvin, bound him, and left him in that trunk. Calvin testified on the second day. He was calm and clear, describing what had happened without emotion, just facts. When Gordon's lawyer tried to suggest Calvin had cheated Gordon out of the business, Calvin provided documentation showing he'd paid Gordon fairly and that Gordon had signed agreements stating he was satisfied with the buyout. Denise testified briefly, describing how Brianna had found Calvin and the condition he'd been in. The jury looked shocked at her description of his injuries. On the third day, Gordon testified in his own defense. It was a disaster. He tried to claim everything was a misunderstanding, that he'd only wanted to talk to Calvin. When pressed, he became angry and defensive, displaying the same violent temper that had led to the kidnapping in the first place. His lawyer tried to paint him as a desperate man who'd made a mistake, but the evidence was too overwhelming. The prosecutor's closing statement was powerful and clear. Gordon Price had kidnapped, threatened, and harassed. He'd violated bail conditions and made terrorist threats. He deserved to be held accountable. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. When they came back, their verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Gordon's face went white. He looked at Calvin across the courtroom and for just a moment, something like regret flashed in his eyes. Then the guards were leading him away. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Calvin's lawyer predicted Gordon would get at least 15 years, possibly more. With his prior behavior and the threats against Denise and Brianna, the judge would likely throw the book at him. Outside the courthouse, Calvin pulled Denise close and just breathed. It's over. It's really over. He can't hurt us anymore. No. He can't. They went to pick up Brianna together. When they told her about the verdict, she pumped her fist in the air. Yes. I knew it. I knew the good guys would win. We won because we told the truth, Calvin said. Because we didn't give up. And because we stuck together, Brianna added. That's the important part. That's definitely the important part. That evening, Calvin took them both out to dinner at a nice restaurant downtown. Not too fancy but nice. A celebration. As they were finishing dessert, Calvin reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. I said I was going to wait until after the trial to do this properly, he said. Turns out I'm not very good at waiting. Denise's hands went to her mouth. Brianna's eyes went wide. Calvin opened the box to reveal a simple, beautiful diamond ring. Not too big, not flashy. Just perfect. Denise Washington, you and your daughter saved my life in every way a person can be saved. You gave me hope when I'd forgotten what that felt like. You gave me love when I'd stopped believing in it. You gave me a family when I thought I'd spend the rest of my life alone. He smiled. Will you marry me? Denise was crying, nodding, unable to speak for a moment. Finally she managed, yes. Yes, of course yes. Calvin slipped the ring on her finger, then turned to Brianna. And you, Miss Brianna Washington. Would you do me the honor of letting me be your dad? Officially? I'd like to adopt you if that's okay with you and your mom. Brianna launched herself at Calvin, wrapping her arms around his neck. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Other diners in the restaurant had noticed what was happening. Several people started clapping. Soon the whole restaurant was applauding and Denise was laughing and crying at the same time. When? Brianna demanded. When are we getting married? As soon as we can arrange it, Calvin said. Nothing too big. Just family and close friends. What do you think? I think it's perfect, Denise said. I think everything is perfect. That night, after Brianna was finally asleep, her excitement having exhausted her, Calvin and Denise sat on the couch in the dark apartment, holding each other. I still can't believe this is real, Denise whispered. Sometimes I'm afraid I'll wake up and find out it was all a dream. It's real. Calvin kissed her forehead. This is our life. We built it together. Brianna built it. She's the one who found you. Who brought you into our lives. Then we're all builders. We all made this happen. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. Then Denise said quietly, I love you. I don't think I've said that enough. You say it every day. In 100 different ways. Well, I'm saying it officially now. I love you, Calvin Hughes. With everything I have. I love you too, Denise Washington. Soon to be Denise Hughes. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? The best ring. Calvin smiled. The absolute best. The wedding took place on a Saturday in June. Calvin had wanted to plan something elaborate, but Denise had insisted on keeping it simple. Close friends, family, nothing fancy. Just genuine. They rented a small venue, a restored barn on the outskirts of the city with big windows and strings of lights. Brianna had helped with the decorations, choosing bright colors and simple flowers. Everything was warm and welcoming and real. Denise wore a cream-colored dress, simple and elegant. Brianna wore a bright red dress that she'd picked out herself, insisting that weddings needed cheerful colors. Calvin wore a navy blue suit that made his eyes look even brighter. There were about 50 guests. Calvin's employees from the company who'd become friends. Denise's co-workers. Mrs. Patterson and some of the other neighbors from the apartment building. Calvin's lawyer who'd become more than just a professional contact during the trial. And Brianna's teachers from her new school, who'd watched her flourish over the past few months. Brianna walked down the aisle first as the flower girl, scattering petals with serious concentration. Then came Denise, walking alone because she'd never needed anyone to give her away. She'd always belonged to herself. Now she was choosing to belong with someone else. The ceremony was short and sweet. They'd written their own vows. Calvin promised to always listen, to always support, to always choose them first. Denise promised to always be honest, to always stand beside him, to always believe in what they were building together. Then the officiant turned to Brianna. And you, Brianna, do you accept Calvin as your father? Do you promise to be part of this family? Brianna stood between her mother and Calvin, holding both their hands. I do. I really, really do. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. And I pronounce the three of you a family. Calvin, you may kiss your bride. Calvin kissed Denise gently while Brianna cheered and the guests applauded. Then he knelt down and hugged Brianna tight. I love you, kiddo. I love you too, Dad. It was the first time she called him that and Calvin's eyes filled with tears. Denise joined the hug, and the three of them stood there holding each other while their friends and family celebrated around them. The reception was joyful and loud. There was food and music and dancing. Calvin danced with Denise, then with Brianna. Brianna danced with everyone who asked, her red dress twirling as she spun. As the sun set and the lights came on, casting everything in a warm glow, Denise stood at the edge of the dance floor and watched her new family. Calvin was showing Brianna how to do some ridiculous dance move, and they were both laughing. Her heart felt so full it might burst. Mrs. Patterson came to stand beside her. "You did good, honey. I got lucky. Luck is what happens when courage meets opportunity. Your Brianna had the courage to help a stranger. You had the courage to accept that help. And Calvin had the courage to be grateful instead of prideful. That's not luck. That's character." Denise smiled. "Maybe you're right. I'm always right. You should know that by now." After the reception they went home together. All three of them. To the house Calvin had quietly bought while planning the wedding. A real house with a yard and 3 bedrooms and enough space for a family to grow. Brianna ran through the rooms, exclaiming over everything. Her bedroom with its own bathroom. The big kitchen where they could all cook together. The living room with the fireplace and the comfortable couch. "This is ours?" she asked, her eyes wide. "All of it." "All of it," Calvin confirmed. "This is home now." That night, after Brianna was finally settled in her new room, Calvin and Denise stood in their own bedroom, still in their wedding clothes, looking at each other. "We did it," Denise said. "We really did it." "We did." Calvin pulled her close. "And we're going to keep doing it. Every day. For the rest of our lives." "That sounds perfect." They kissed and it tasted like promise and possibility and hope. All the things they'd found in each other. All the things they'd built together. Down the hall, Brianna lay in her new bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars Calvin had helped her stick to the ceiling. She thought about that day months ago when she'd heard screaming in that abandoned lot. How she'd been scared but had gone to help anyway. If she hadn't gone, if she'd walked past like her mother always told her to, none of this would have happened. They'd still be in their old apartment, still struggling, still just getting by. But she had gone. She had help. And because of that, everything had changed. She heard her mother's laugh from down the hall, then Calvin's lower voice responding. Her parents. Her family. Brianna smiled in the dark and whispered to herself, "Best decision ever." 6 months later, Gordon Price was released from prison after serving a reduced sentence. He had changed significantly during his time behind bars and had participated in rehabilitation programs. Upon his release, he immediately contacted Calvin through the proper legal channels, requesting a meeting. Calvin, after discussing it with Denise and his lawyer, agreed. They met in Calvin's office at Hughes Manufacturing Solutions. Gordon looked different, humbler, older, genuinely remorseful. "I don't expect forgiveness," Gordon said, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. "What I did was unforgivable. I let greed and jealousy turn me into someone I hate. Someone my mother would have been ashamed of." Calvin listened without interrupting. "I've spent every day in prison thinking about what I took from you. The fear I caused you and your family. The damage I tried to do to everything you'd built." Gordon's voice cracked. "I was wrong. About everything." "Thank you for saying that," Calvin said quietly. "I won't say it makes everything okay because it doesn't. But I appreciate you taking responsibility." Gordon nodded. "I've written letters to Denise and Brianna too. Apologizing. I don't expect them to read them or respond. But I needed to say it anyway." He stood to leave, then paused. "You're a good man, Calvin. You always were. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I'm sorry I had to hurt you to figure out who I really was." After Gordon left, Calvin sat at his desk for a long time, thinking. Then he called Denise. "How do you feel?" she asked when he told her about the meeting. "Sad mostly. Gordon and I were friends once. We built something together. And he threw it all away because he wanted more than he deserved." Calvin paused, but also relieved, knowing he's genuinely sorry. That he's trying to be better. "Do you forgive him?" "I'm working on it. It'll take time." "That's fair." That evening, the whole family gathered for dinner as they did every night. It had become their ritual, their anchor. Brianna set the table while Denise cooked. Calvin helped with both, moving between them easily. As they ate, Brianna talked about her day at school. She was in advanced classes now, thriving academically and socially. She'd made close friends and was even considering joining the debate team. "And guess what?" she said excitedly. "Mrs. Rodriguez said I could enter my essay in the state competition. The one about acts of kindness." "That's wonderful, honey," Denise said. "You worked really hard on that essay." "It's about the day I found Dad," Brianna said. "About how one choice can change everything." Calvin reached across the table and squeezed her hand. That essay is going to win. I just know it. Even if it doesn't, I'm proud of it. Because it's true. One choice really did change everything. After dinner, they settled into their evening routine. Homework for Brianna while Denise and Calvin cleaned up. Then family time in the living room where they'd play games or watch movies or just talk. Tonight they played cards and Brianna won 3 games in a row, celebrating each victory with increasingly elaborate victory dances. Where did you learn those moves? Calvin asked, laughing. Natural talent, Brianna said solemnly. Can't be taught. Later, after Brianna was in bed, Calvin and Denise sat on the back porch, looking at the stars. The night was warm and peaceful. Do you ever think about how we got here? Denise asked. About how unlikely all of this was? Every day. Calvin pulled her closer. Some people would call it luck. Others would call it fate. What would you call it? I'd call it the reward for having the courage to help. For having the courage to accept help. For having the courage to love. He kissed the top of her head. I'd call it earned. Denise smiled. I like that. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. Then Denise said, Brianna's essay got me thinking. About how we tell our story to people. About what the lesson is. What do you think the lesson is? That kindness matters. That helping someone, even when it's scary or inconvenient, can change lives. Not just their life but yours too. She looked up at him. That love and hope and gratitude can build something beautiful. That's a good lesson. It's the right lesson. Denise paused. Because that's what you've taught us, Calvin. That accepting help isn't weakness. That gratitude opens doors. That kindness deserves kindness in return. You taught me the same things, Calvin said softly. You and Brianna both. You could have walked past that lot. You could have refused to let me in your home. You could have said no to the job, to the apartment, to all of it out of pride. But you didn't. You let me help, and in doing so, you helped me more than you'll ever know. Inside the house, they heard Brianna call out in her sleep, then settle back down. Both of them smiled. She's having good dreams, Denise said. She always does now. That's because she knows she's safe. Well, home. We all are. They stayed on the porch until late, talking and dreaming and planning. Talking about maybe giving Brianna a sibling someday. About taking a family vacation. About growing the business and giving more people opportunities like the one Denise had received. About building a life that honored the second chance they'd all been given. As the moon rose high and the stars shone bright, Calvin Hughes held his wife close and thought about that day in the trunk. The darkness, the fear, the certainty that he was going to die alone. And then the sound of a child's voice, brave and determined, refusing to walk away from someone in need. One act of courage had led to this. To love, to family, to home. To everything that mattered. Inside, Brianna dreamed of the future. Of graduating school and making her parents proud. Of helping other people the way she'd helped Calvin. Of living a life that proved what her mother had always told her was true. Good things really do happen to good people. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes the path is hard. But in the end, kindness always finds its reward. And in that moment, in that house, under those stars, all 3 of them were exactly where they belonged. Together. Forever. A family built on courage, sustained by love, and grateful for every single day.